welcome to the Physical Freedom Podcast. But I'm here with the first two L3s in ATG for coaches history. We got Fernando and Mason. I met both of these guys about 2.5 years ago when we first came down for the ATG Expo. Honestly, this community has been pretty amazing. It's completely changed my life. And so far, most of the people here have been ATG coaches, but this podcast really is just about achieving physical freedom, right? Like doing everything you love without pain and just being able to have that freedom to express your body, express yourself through movement, through your body. A lot of people have kind of lost that nowadays, with 70% of America being obese, or not obese, but overweight.
Same thing, yeah.
Yeah, well, I would be considered overweight, technically. You would be considered overweight, I would think.
I guess so, yeah.
So, the BMI thing is not the most accurate, but...
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically what the podcast is about. I think you guys are somebody that's going to be very helpful for, really anybody to kind of achieve that, because we all kind of coach a system that's clearly helping people achieve physical freedom. But you both specialize in two very different things, but that can also help that, right? You do. Fernando does body comp. He's helped hundreds of clients improve their body composition, get shredded, and really just live a healthier, better life overall.
Yeah, definitely. Body composition and then a little bit of basketball, but mainly just body composition for the general population client.
Yeah, that's amazing. Did you play basketball in college too, right?
Yep. Played basketball, high school, college.
What college?
Actually, it's called Aquinas College in Grand Rapids. And then I played junior college in Chicago as well. But yeah, at a certain point, I actually basically quit college to further my career in coaching, basically. At a certain point, I could have stayed in a couple more years, but I decided just to make the change.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And then Mason's Training 2.0. We're going to do our own podcast with Mason as well.
Yeah.
Really, we just want to focus mostly on Fernando because he's leaving tomorrow. Came to visit us here in Clearwater all the way from Chicago, right?
Yep.
Chi-Town. What part of Chi-Town?
The northwest side. So yeah.
So yeah, if you're in Northwest Chi-Town, hit this man up for some world-class coaching.
Yeah.
Any part.
Any part.
And Mason is here from Michigan.
Yeah, I currently live in Detroit. I was born in San Jose, so part of California, and I found a house out there and was originally going to coach a hockey team out there, a college team. That ended up falling through, so I just created my own business from there, with some help, of course, from guys like you and ATG as well, so the community there. So I just found a niche with hockey, and I'm basically one of the only ATG hockey coaches that's out there, and I'm looking to use it to change the game a little bit. So
yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, so many sports need coaches that are preaching the truth. ATG is not the only way, but I definitely feel
it's one of the better ones from what
one of the ways.
Yeah.
One of them ways.
Yes.
There is no way, right? It's everything, whatever works. What made you want to become a coach? How long have you been a coach?
For about 3 or 4 years. Really it was during COVID because I was still a basketball player.
Yeah.
And I was always trying to work out and everything, and then all the gyms shut down. So I had to kind of figure out my own thing about because there are no trainers, no coaches really. Figure out my own thing about how to train, and then found a book that I got gifted to me a long time ago.
Yeah. What was the book?
It was Jump Attack by Tim Grover, which is Michael Jordan's trainer. And it was basically just some plyometrics and just some basically no equipment needed, kind of a jumping book. And I basically did that every day. I skipped upper body though, not anymore. But back then, I was just doing the jumping part.
Yeah.
And then that kind of just got me into the whole training side, training for performance, because I never did that before then. But then after that point, I just kept on going deeper into it.
Yeah.
More books, more videos, things like that. And it was actually funny. Every college team I was on, I'd be doing my own thing, with my little cards, with the programs from these books I was reading and stuff. So yeah.
At what point do people start asking you can you coach me?
Nobody.
Nobody?
Yeah, nobody.
Yeah,
nobody really. I mean, it's actually funny. So the last year before I graduated. I was actually training one of my teammates, Chase, for like my project to graduate because basically I switched my major, but I still wanted to do a final project on like exercise science, which was my original major.
Yeah.
I did about like 70 to 85% of the classes, but just the timing, like I just wasn't trying to wait. But yeah, basically I did a project where I trained him for I think 8 weeks, and we just like recorded his progress from like when he first started until all the way at the end,
Yeah.
and like what protocols we used and stuff like that. When we first started, he had not torn his hamstring, but he definitely strained it. It was like a strain 2 or whatever. So I wanted to document that process while also seeing like muscle mass and things like that. And that's kind of
Yeah.
where the body composition stuff started with the before and after pictures and things like that.
That's
So
awesome.
that was like the first project that I did. And then from there, came back home and then helped my mom do that, and then started helping other people like my mom who are like really busy people at work, but then they didn't really prioritize their health,
Yeah.
and they're doing a lot of sedentary sitting on the computer because they're remote workers. And then kind of I just started getting more and more people like that.
Yeah, that's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you take it very seriously. So,
Yeah.
what at what point did you end up dropping out from the college team to then
So I was
focusing?
I was 2 years in at the school I was at.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I was 2 years in, and then I was like, you know what, like this basketball stuff is cool, but like, man, like coaching is kind of something I really like, and just I don't know, it's like always trying to chase that like perfect session. If you know what I'm saying, like there's some sessions when like you just feel like, man, that like flowed really nice, like perfect weight selection, perfect everything, and give me like a lot of just I was able to get a lot out of it.
Yeah.
So then I was like, and like, basketball is cool, but like, why would I chase something that at the end isn't gonna give me much? So I was like, I rather just take these 2 years that I could have spent playing basketball to go do coaching, because then I'll be 2 years ahead of my future self if I had stayed.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really the biggest driving factor was that,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like been working out for me
That's
ever
awesome.
since. Yeah.
Yeah. So you find it more gratifying to kind of help others
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
versus
yeah, yeah. And then I'm also just able to, through coaching and through program design and just through exercise, I'm able to express myself and like how I want to, how I think a workout should be, or how like how progress should be for a client.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like my canvas, or my you know my what's that called, like my molding clay, and we kind of like help them mold themselves into who they want to be.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. Mason, how did you get into coaching over instead of playing hockey?
Mostly from the stuff that I found wasn't being commonly taught.
Yeah.
I like 5 years ago, I changed up my on ice training to like better reflect that and get better results. Things that kind of like created a 10,000 hour transformation in either mere seconds or minutes, or because there's this process called video feedback where
Yeah.
you compare literally side by side, you doing the mechanics or you doing movements, comparatively speaking, to like a player who's better than you, or like an NHL superstar in that case. I didn't have specifically that type of training. It was all
Yeah.
just taking the coach's word for it. I never once saw my own video until like I came across that specific program with what's called Train 2.0 Hockey. So I hopped on board with that about 6 years ago to that point. Went through all of that intensively, became a coach after some falling out with my junior hockey team at the time. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to get into coaching. Simultaneously, the shutdown started to happen because I was around the time of COVID. And I helped off and on with coaching here and there. Didn't really commit to it until I started having to fix my body from a constant overtraining with hockey. Much like you didn't train your upper body, I did nothing for it whatsoever with that. It was just all hockey, all on the ice, all sticky gear all the time and sweat my ass off on the rink. Sometimes spending 4 to 6 hours on the ice at different times,
Wow.
like either collectively. I think there was one point where I did it all at once, but like so much training that it just started to bring back up um, past injuries once again.
Yeah.
Like with my hip and groin, which I had tweaks in junior hockey, but it wasn't as serious as it went. I was around January of 2021. That was when I started to walk around like a 70-year-old when I'm 20 at the time. It's not supposed to happen.
No, well, I mean, I've been there as well.
Yeah. But I knew it's like, okay, if I'm ever going to have any chance whatsoever at making pro, then I need to fix my body and be able to walk. So that's where I started looking for solutions. Hockey friend shared a video from Ben Patrick, and that's after playing around with some other programs, I committed to ATG, and then after about 6 months of staying with the program, the hip pain started to go away. And then about 2 years into it, I mastered all the lower body standards. And then this is year 3 of training, going on to year 4, Jesus, in 2025.
Wow.
When April rolls around. So this is 3.5 years into it. I'm finally getting the upper body standards. Yeah. And I still need it structurally balanced to the lower body, but I got into coaching into January 2022. So it was like a year timeline between training it and then getting into coaching afterwards, seeing like what makes it tick. Cause like it was different enough. Like, we can admit too, Ben's really good at marketing as well. There's no question about it. But it was still very convincing at the same time. So I was like, okay, I want to hop on the train with this. That's eventually how I joined ATG, worked at a commercial gym. Eventually, after like an 8-month gap of almost doing nothing but training. This was after I got fired from 2 different jobs at one point. Yeah. So it was like between 2021 and 2022, that was where I had like a Zamboni job and a retail job. Got laid off from both of them for their own reasons. Yeah, those are their own stories.
You guys just know each other through ATG, or did you already kind of?
Well, I was familiar with you in the Pulse, I think, or in the general chat. And then we coordinated for an internship with Ben Clearfield.
Oh, that's awesome.
With Christian Kurz, too.
Oh, I kind of remember seeing that.
Yeah. So that's where we really started to bond.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And then we've helped each other along the way and stay in touch since then. And now we're the first L3s that are through the new system.
Investment paying off.
Yeah.
Getting some dividends already.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that's kind of the story behind that. I worked at a commercial gym for like a year and a half or so. So I can still, even though I primarily do hockey, I can still relate to training people who are not necessarily hockey players and just the general population of, everyone who has any physical problem whatsoever and wants to pursue that freedom with it. So seeing that firsthand, that really taught me the importance of programming for each individual people and being able to talk to people as well, giving my own voice, because like I don't claim to still be the greatest speaker, but just going through all of that with people like I found really helped to develop my character. I think coaching is the best job in the world because of that.
Oh, dude, I completely agree.
Yeah.
I've had so many other jobs as well that it's like no comparison.
Yeah.
Did you ever have any injuries or anything like that?
I mean, like just like Mason, I also had like hip and groin pain just from playing basketball, just playing so many hours and playing so hard without really strength training, it just kind of like compiled on itself. So I get really stiff and tight, really sore after playing, and then thankfully what happened was I also found ATG, and then I kind of started doing it myself, and then actually started working. and I was actually able to help my hip pain, and then from there I was able to help a lot of sedentary people with their
Yeah.
hip pain as well.
That's amazing.
So
How did you find ATG?
It's funny. So back when I was in junior college, um, you want me to keep going?
Yeah, I was making
Everything
sure.
good?
I was making sure it was working. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, you're good.
I didn't want you to miss out.
Back so like my first year of college, this was like during COVID. So it was actually funny. I was going to the school that I was originally supposed to play basketball at.
Yeah.
But they canceled the season.
Oh.
And so I was there taking classes. I was taking some like exercise science classes, because they had a program there, and just trying to figure out my basketball thing. I actually ended up having to go and drive basically an hour to a different school to go practice with that team, but still take classes at the school I was at originally. But yeah, basically I was taking classes there, and then one day we had a project about like common injuries that might come up, and like doing some research on like and making a presentation about it,
Yeah.
and then I was like, oh, like I never had knee pain, but like jumper's knee is super big in basketball, and I was like, let me just do that because that'll be easy off the list I saw, and I was like, all right. And then basically just typed in jumper's knee, how to fix, and then of course Ben Patrick came up, knees over toes guy, and then kind of went from there. I was able to read more into his stuff, and then
Yeah.
I was like connected to his story because he's also a basketball player. And then from that, I literally would just watch videos all the time. The same way I was reading the books on the training before for basketball, I was doing the same thing with his stuff. And then I was like, oh wow, like this split squat's really helping my hips. Like this must be like something good. And then I just kept on going into it, and then sooner or later, and this was like before I even, I never was on the online program or the coaches. I was just watching his YouTube videos for free.
Wow. Yeah.
And then I was like, I might do the online program, and then I just decided to do the online coaching.
Yeah.
And then
That's perfect.
from there, was on the Zoom calls, was just doing everything, learning, being a better coach, and
Yeah.
really just enticed me to want to, be a coach,
Yeah. And you mentioned you've helped a lot of people who are desk workers, that type
Yeah.
of thing, right? You just told the story of your mom. So why don't we start there? It's like, what were some of the things that you feel like helped your mom the most, and what were some of the results?
Yeah, I
she
mean,
got
so
from
the
it?
biggest thing was she was sitting a lot for work.
Yeah.
So like really weak hips, really tight and stiff hips, So like she would have sciatica, early on in her like training process,
Yeah.
But then like just doing split squats like literally helped that, like, because kind of you want to get strength but also relieve the tension or the tightness, So split squat was really good for that. But then for the strength part, it was basically just doing like ab training or like lower ab training, like bar hammer raises,
Yeah.
things like that,
Getting them stronger.
Basically, yeah. Putting some muscle mass around there, because once you put muscle mass around the joint, there's less friction,
Yeah.
Because that's sometimes the reason why there's joint pain, because there's no muscle mass. There's so there's gonna be a lot more friction,
That makes sense.
in
Yeah.
within the joint. But so just adding some muscle mass while also like strengthening and lengthening the joint itself.
Did you have symptoms of like hip impingement at all with your thing?
Hip impingement, I don't know. I just know I got like super sore and like really stiff, like almost would pull my hip flexors, just from like playing basketball so hard. Like pull my hip flexors, pull my groin, especially like during like travel basketball in high
Yeah.
school. Because I would just play all the time and just play hard, That's really a big thing.
So,
back?
is your mom still training?
Oh yeah. I mean, she was like one of my, other than my teammate that I first did that project on, she was my like, first client, So I think it's been maybe a year and a half, 2 years, and she's been able to lose 40 pounds, like less pain, like no hip pain, and just steadily progressing,
40 pounds is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it
That's
took
awesome.
took a long time, and yeah, I've actually been told that's like the hardest person to train is your mom,
Oh,
or
100%.
just
Yeah.
your parents in general. So I just got lucky, maybe.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But yeah, I mean, like, yeah,
No, if you can train your mom, you can train anybody.
Yeah.
You're gonna get the most objections from
yeah,
her.
exactly, exactly.
Exactly.
What are some of the biggest things that you see get people in trouble with weight gain? As far as,
Weight
like,
gain,
yeah, just
I'd
working
say,
professionals.
the biggest thing is stress management. A lot of people aren't like sleeping. which is one of the biggest ways to manage your stress and like reduce it. So we got people who are working desk jobs who are super stressed, who aren't sleeping, and then are using food to basically supplement sleep to reduce their stress.
Yeah.
Specifically, like carbs, like processed foods, sweets.
Things that bring you lots of dopamine.
Exactly. Trying to reduce that stress. So that's the biggest thing for weight gain specifically, and for just being able to lose that is also stress management. And then exercise or nutrition are all like there to help the stress management better.
Right.
You're training, so you're feeling more energized, so then you can sleep better. You're eating right, so then you're basically same thing. You feel energized, so then you get more out of the workout, so then you can sleep better.
You have a higher
Yeah.
stress tolerance.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. But stress management is huge.
Yeah. Okay, so it's kind of like where you focus your.
Yeah, I focus on
Coaching.
like three parts.
Yeah.
Like nutrition, um, training, and then stress management. Specifically sleep, but there's also other ways to do stress management, but sleep is like top priority, really. And also nutrition can also stress your body as well by eating foods you're intolerant to, basically causing more inflammation. So we're just trying to decrease the stressors that are coming to us, and then being able to uh, basically um, losing the word, but basically like tolerate that stress by
Yeah.
or like handle it better through other habits,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What are some things that you get people started on as far as changing the habits to improve their sleep?
So like let's say like this is not necessarily for like remote workers, but sometimes for like athletes just sleeping before 12 o'clock. Some of these or just regular people in general, they're sleeping, at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
waking up at 8 and or whatever time they are waking up, they're like, oh, I did get my 8 hours, but like the quality matters, so the best sleep is before 12 o'clock.
Every
So
hour
yep,
before 12.
yep. And
Counts
so
double, right?
yeah, right. I don't know about that, but it definitely is way more quality
Yeah.
compared to like going to bed after 12 o'clock, And the easiest way that I've found that I've learned is just basically, let's say we're trying to go to bed like 11 o'clock and we're going to bed currently at 3 a.m., just going back every night 15 minutes
Right.
until we hit our target, So that might take a week or two, but at a certain point, we'll get to that target before 12 o'clock.
That's a smart approach. I like that.
But yeah, that I'd say like that's like one of the first starting things is just going to bed earlier.
Yeah.
The most like optimal sleep time is like from 10 to 6. But I say just doing before 12 o'clock is super good. What about you, Mason?
My sleep hasn't been too good recently, but no, like I do notice that it's much easier to work out and to focus when there's more focus on sleep.
Yeah.
And there's better performance as a result. Just developing the business has kind of kept me up late recently,
Yeah.
but
Entrepreneur's dilemma.
yeah.
And then the next thing is just like training, preferably in the morning, because if you're training in the morning, then you have to have like good sleep habits, So just starting training, and just like, a lot of these people haven't been training in a really long time or have never trained. So just starting the habit of training is another like big step in the
Yeah.
right direction.
So
And then lastly, just water intake,
Yeah?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
kind of water?
So actually, when you wake up, I like to have my clients do like lime or like lemon and salt, like a pinch of salt. It helps like really help one hydration, but also your kidneys, and then also your adrenals, and then your gut health as well. If you do
good.
it on an empty stomach when you wake up, it's just great for all of that resetting the body.
It's a really good
yeah.
tip. Yeah. What about people who drink tap water?
Tap water. So I mean, like preferably, of course, we would like all want to drink what's it called, like purified water. That would be like the most optimal thing. But then you also have to find clients at whatever stage they're at,
100%.
And
Yeah.
like if I have a new client and they've never done like they've always lived a certain way, and I'm like, this is the most optimal, and we got to do this, and we got to, we got these 10 things we got to get for you all within this week.
Yeah.
Might be too much,
Yeah.
just one thing at a time. Like one thing's the sleep, then the training, then it'd be like, oh, like like that tap water isn't as good for you as like, let's say, a purified pitcher, or
Yeah.
like a purified uh gallon thing,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Especially if they live like in the inner city or something like
yeah,
that. It's like,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly, yeah.
makes sense.
And yeah,
What would you say to someone that's like Mason, right? That's like an entrepreneur,
Mason.
has to stay up doing their work. What are some things that he can do to improve his sleep, despite having limited time to sleep?
The biggest thing is time management. I feel like this for like athletes, and but also just for like entrepreneurs that like, there's not necessarily a structured schedule. Not like going to 9 to 5. But time management is super important because for somebody like Mason, he has an open schedule for the most part. He's an online coach mainly, right?
Mainly.
Yeah.
So being an online coach, you kind of make your own hours, but you're also um, you kind of like live and die by that. If your time management isn't good, if you don't have certain routines that you can do every day, um then basically it kind of can be like, oh, I'm feeling this, then let me go do that, and then kind of that can drag on, and then affect your sleep, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So basically just like having your morning night routine and then also your work routine kind of set up, all working together. That's what I'd say.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Mason?
That sounds very necessary.
How's your time management right now? Like, have you been like able to focus on that? Because I know, like, because we've been living in the Airbnb together, so
Yeah.
I've been kind of like seeing like how Mason works, and Mason is always working, but I don't know, like for me, like, I'm always waking up super early and going to bed like super early as well. But then working with like living with the online coach, it's a little different because he has his own schedule, he doesn't have to wake up for a 6 a.m., session. Um, so kind of talk about that and how your time management could be working.
Could be better, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, at the peak.
You know what I'm saying though, right?
No, I get
Yeah.
you. Yeah, at the peak, especially when I was doing the commercial gym still, I'd wake up at like 4 just to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
work on my own business, and which you're not supposed to do, according to company policy, by the way, is work on your own business within
I
anywhere.
can't wait for your
Yeah.
podcast. You're gonna dive into that.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Then we
to
won't
say
be
the
hired by
least.
any gym ever.
Yeah.
No.
Now it's been a little more lenient, especially now that I have a house.
Yeah.
Too. Learning the responsibilities has been, I think, the biggest struggle over the past, ever since I moved in June, this past year or so, and even like going through the maintenance of everything to like, even like I woke up in the middle of the night, something dropped, and I thought someone was breaking into my house. So I ended up staying up like another like 2 hours after that. I couldn't find what dropped, so I thought like a window broke and things like that. Turns out no one did, thankfully, broke into my house. But that's a sign of a couple other things as well. Sometimes I'll work myself to exhaustion and I'll just lay flat on the bed. Sam Brettsey knows this, by the way. I don't know if he's listening, but I stayed at his house, and to just the first night I came back, like he'll tell the story too. Like, I just walked into his house. I said hi to him, walked up the stairs, laid on the bed. 2 minutes later, I was out.
Yeah.
This was at like 11 in the morning after waking up at 5 or so and staying up all day. So there's a consistency there. I find that waking up kind of sets the tone for whenever I go to bed after that, and that generally helps. So as long as I keep waking up when I want to between like 5 and 6, that's usually good for me, or a good start to the day. Even if I don't wake up, I'm like, okay, change it up tonight, and we'll go from there. But usually when I'm waking up around that time is when things are in place.
Yeah. I find that having that consistency helps. Like if you wake up at the same time every day, you're gonna go to bed around the same time every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things for
need to blow
like
my
the
nose.
time management stuff is figuring out like what you put value in, because then you'll manage that time good, you know. So if you actually do value your sleep, then you're gonna make sure you like block that in your schedule, you know. But that's one of the biggest things, also figuring out like what you should be valuing in order to live optimally.
What do you think should be valuing?
Like sleep, definitely.
The three things you already
Training,
hit. Yeah.
yeah. Work, definitely work, but you know, working smarter, not harder, you know. Um, Definitely like nutrition, meaning like meal prepping, kind of especially for people who are trying to lose body fat.
Yeah.
Uh, they get all the training stuff in, but sometimes the nutrition is the hardest part. And really, sometimes because we're not blocking out time for, you know, meal prepping, or we're not, you know, spacing our tasks for work or whatever far enough apart. So then like we're going back to back to back, and then we're super hungry. Now we have to go to this, you know, drive by to eat McDonald's or whatever, because
Yeah.
we didn't pack a lunch because we didn't meal prep it, and also because, you know, our tasks are like super like too consolidated, you know. So definitely putting time in to eat as well is also really important for like losing body fat and body composition.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I mean, I think you answered my question already, but I was just going to say, you know, you've helped both desk workers and athletes achieve amazing physique transformations. What is the process you take your clients through to help them achieve their dream physique? And you kind of already
Yeah, I
explained
mean,
it,
like
but
one of the
if you
biggest
want
things
to,
is tracking. So what I use
yeah,
is a in-body scale. I know you use it as well, and we just track that every 2 weeks, and then we just have certain habits that we want to hit,
yeah,
um, that are simple but are effective. You know, so the sleep, of course, the hydration, 3 to 4 liters of water a
yeah.
day,
Wow.
um, the nutrition, specifically not necessarily restricting people from eating certain foods, but eliminating food intolerances,
Yeah.
because eating certain foods will like inflame us, you know. So if we want to drop our body fat, feel better, decrease bloating, things like that, we want to take away those foods, you know.
What are the top foods you would restrict for a client that's looking to lose body fat?
Like gluten, like or just like wheat, you know, stuff in general, I'd say. Um Depending on, it really depends on like what your genetic background is, but also I've seen clients not certain clients do not so well with like corn, like tortillas, things like that.
Yeah.
Hummus, quinoa, definitely like those things, like quinoa, hummus, um, you know, tortillas, things like that. You wouldn't think are bad, and they're not necessarily bad, you know. It's just for that person, it just doesn't work out, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'd say that, and then what was the question?
Just
Yeah.
what are the foods you would restrict
Oh,
for
the
somebody?
foods, dairy.
Okay.
Definitely not necessarily restricting, but just monitoring a lot of these different things, you know. Yeah, gluten, dairy, and then just kind of like things like chickpeas as well. Just being aware of like certain foods like that
Yeah.
that you might be intolerant to. And one of the easiest ways to find out if you're intolerant is you take a week or like a hiatus of 2 weeks of not eating it, and then you go back to eating it, and then how do I feel?
That
You
makes
know?
sense. Yeah.
But like, you know, one of the biggest things is like quinoa, you know, like a lot of people think it's healthy, and it is healthy, but for a lot of people it can bloat them, you know.
Yeah. A lot of
So
people are really intolerant to grains, things like that.
grains, yep. So that's why I try to keep it simple, just, you know, just single ingredient things, you know.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people kind of try to find these like I don't know exactly how you would call it, but these substitutes for like, let's say,
Gluten free.
yeah, or
Yeah.
whatever, you know, like these substitutes that are kind of like have a lot of chemicals in it, you know. Like I've seen like
Like the protein bars,
yeah,
things like
protein
that.
bars, or like protein tortillas, or, you know,
Yeah.
just like stuff like, you know, like I understand it's, you know, it's protein, but it also has all this extra stuff
Yeah.
that is, you know, inflaming us, you know.
Hyper processed.
Yeah. So the biggest thing is just eating single ingredient foods, you know.
I like that. Yeah. That's, I mean, yeah, keeping it
Yeah.
simple. Really
What
good.
about you and carnivore and things like that,
Oh yeah,
Mason? Because I know
We
you've
can
gone
get
through
we can get
that.
into that on your podcast, because I do want to dig into
probably.
it. But you guys have
Yeah.
an Uber coming up very soon,
Yeah,
right?
in a minute or trainers. So,
So
the
let me-
carnival conversation is very, very interesting.
Let me ask you the last question.
Yeah,
Damn,
on
Mason,
there.
you already did the Uber?
yeah, because it's 9:04 or 7:04
Oh.
that we arrived. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You
So
haven't
with
been
the
hungry.
holiday season coming up, what advice do you have for busy professionals who are worried about staying on track with their fitness goals?
That's tough actually because like around this time, I'd say like it's like one of the most difficult times, you know. But I'd say, uh, the biggest thing is like I wish you put in the work before that, so
Yeah,
then
so you're not worried
the
about it.
so the drop off isn't like so bad, you know.
Yeah.
But like, let's say somebody's just starting now, just being aware, like trying to control what you can control. I know a lot of people like are super family oriented and don't want to feel left out by eating whatever, and that's fine. So maybe just save those times to eat however you want, but then the times when you're by yourself or whatever, trying to keep it more strict so then you can have a little leeway when it comes to, going to these holiday parties and things like that,
Yeah. And don't stress, right?
Yeah, don't stress.
management.
Yeah, stress management. I mean, like, I know the end of the year stuff specifically for like, I know a lot of like accountants, bankers, things like that, um, that they work a lot. But then, especially at the end of the month and the end of the year is one of the biggest things. And, this is quarter four. So, it's sometimes one of the most stressful times for people, one, because for work, but then for, also just for family things in general and just like different things like, oh,
Brother,
we have to go to this
pleasure.
holiday
I'll see you
party,
tomorrow. Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say that
That's a really good
just
answer, man.
trying to manage your stress best you can and then just keep on working whatever you can do.
Yeah. Awesome, man. So, guys, make sure to go follow Fuel by Fern on Instagram. Mason is Mason 2.0 or Train 2.0.
Yeah. Hockey. Yeah.
Yeah, these guys are going to go to Baskin's, probably one of the best steakhouses in Clearwater. So if you haven't been there, go check it out. $1 billion bacon.
Yes, sir.
Right.
ATG Principle 11. $1 billion bacon.
I love it, man.
Let's
All
go.
right. It's always a pleasure, brother. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes,
so
sir.
It won't be goodbye, but thank you for doing the podcast.
Good work.
Sure, it's going to help a lot of people get their bodies right.